Populism is a word that's on the lips of journalists, politicians, people on the news, but what is it? The world's been in an interesting few years, I think it's fair to say, economically, obviously with the pandemic, and on defence now. And there is basically one group of parties, one group of politicians who seem to have done really well out of that, and that's the populist parties. Whether it's their lines on immigration, on taxation sometimes, on reforming the state, and on defeating the wokerati and those kinds of groups. It's the populist politicians who've been doing well in the polls. And with reform set for what could be pretty big gains in the local elections, we thought it'd be a good chance for SMF, or a think tank, to have a look at that as a phenomenon. But we're not a pollster. There's lots of polls happening on this. We thought let's look at it from a policy perspective. That's our thing, politics. So we wanted to do some work on it. So SMF planning on doing this work on populism, and the important first step is to define it. What is populism? And there are a number of answers to that question. If you look online, we found a definition that we quite liked, and it had three parts. So the first of those are for populist platforms as having a kind of us versus them narrative as part of their story. So we are the in-group, we are the rightful people, we are the will of the people, and we're defining ourselves against the other, and that might be the elite, often is the elite, it might be certain ethnic groups, might be defined on religious terms, but there's kind of this us versus them story. The second thing is a majoritarian view of democracy, and so by that I mean if we win an election, we get to do whatever we like, irrespective of the views of the people that lose. And even if we win it by 50% plus one, we don't have to heed any of the interests of the losing group. Whereas a more liberal view of democracy would say, okay, actually, even when you win an election, but it doesn't mean you should completely discard the views of those who lose. Maybe you should try to find some middle ground on some issues, or at least be aware of what their interests are. And the third thing is anti-institutionalism. So these big institutions, whether it's Parliament itself and those kinds of things, or things like the media, or the courts, or the universities, these are all things which you'll see populist parties disagree with during campaigns. And then if they do win power, they will often seek to dismantle them or ignore them, whether that's courts striking down laws that are made by politicians, or in changing the way that state media is run to make it more aligned with their party views. So one of the things that makes populism hard to explain sometimes is that parties of the populist creed can exist across all bits of the political spectrum. So on the left, on the right, and in the centre. On the left, you've got organisations like Podemos in Spain, and Syriza in Greece. In the centre, you've got Italy's Five-Star Movement, which ran the country for a time. But it's fair to say that most of the parties of populism are on the right in the West. So whether that's the AfD in Germany, the Rassemblement National in France, Fidesz in Hungary with Viktor Orban, or of course here in the UK with Reform UK. So that's a bit about what populism is, but why are we looking at this? So we're the Social Market Foundation, founded in 1989, and we're Britain's leading cross-party think tank. And as a think tank, we've always believed in pragmatic policy solutions. And so, we have a real stake in understanding what the rise of populism means and what is driving it. And so that's kind of what this whole program of work is about. There's loads of great polling on this, speaking to votes and that kind of thing, but we wanted to come at it from a slightly different angle. So we're taking a policy-based approach. We're looking at government data from across all the seats in the country and trying to see what are the factors, what are the policy issues that we see resonating in those seats as we see it in the Reform's vote share in those places. And once you understand what those issues are, and just to tell you now, there's not just one thing. There's many issues which seem to come up time and time again. Once we understand what those real issues are, we can try and think of those pragmatic policy solutions for those things, and in a different way to the populist parties are currently proposing. So, yeah, that's the plan. And there'll be more videos like this to take you through our work.